Hello humans, Paul here. Welcome to my world of stuff. I'm doing something slightly different today. I'm out and about. I'm going to get a bit of fresh air today. Here in Wales, the regulations have been relaxed. I think they have in England as well, but we can travel um, various distances now. We're not on complete lockdown anymore, which is a bit of a relief. So I'm going to do something which I know a lot of YouTubers do, and I'm probably not going to do it regularly, but I'm going, as it's Monday, I'm going on a physical media hunt: Blu-rays, DVDs, books, CDs, see what's been released today in the supermarkets. There's only one large supermarket near me now that stocks physical media. We did have a couple of Sainsbury's fairly locally, which have recently taken away all their physical media because they've got new Argos branches in store, so they're getting rid of physical media. And there's a Tesco which has a very small selection. So there's really only one store near me that I tend to go to locally to see what's out and about. So as I'm going on a bit of a walk today, a bit of a constitutional, as I said, I thought I'd pop out and see what's new on the shelves. Physical media. It's not something I do regularly, but as I say, a lot of people do it, and people seem to enjoy those sorts of things. So in my quest for more subscribers, I thought I'd join in the physical media hunt for today, and we'll have a look and see what's new. So join me, shall you? Let's hit the road.
A few minutes later.
Hello humans, welcome back. Well, we've reached our destination. We've reached the local Asda, which you can probably see there. It's the only place nearby me now, as I said, which sells physical media, so I'm just going to pop in and have a look on the shelves, see what books are available, see what new DVDs, Blu-rays, if any. Then I have a little bit of shopping to do, and then I'm going to go for a little bit of a stroll, so I will do a few clips, montage clips of some of the delights of sunny South Wales. So I'll see you in store. So here we go. I'm doing a voiceover because, as inevitably, there is copyright music playing. It's Hall & Oates and Duran Duran, in case you're interested. So I'm just doing a voiceover of what's on the shelves. Only one long rack of stuff now in Asda these days, which is a bit of a shame. There's the Disney stuff, which I'm not hugely interested in. Into the new releasey sort of stuff, we've got Soul. This is the recent Disney Pixar animation, which came out at Christmas, which is actually quite good. That's out today. That's the big new release out today. Worth a look if you're into your animation. Here's the Karate Kid box set, which is on Blu-ray, very reasonably priced as well. I mean, I love Cobra Kai. I think it's great, but I'm not really particularly minded to go back and check out the film, so perhaps I should. I'm not sure. Maybe one day. Maybe I'll have a little look. Then we got a lot of Blu-rays down to £10 and £5. Picard there, which couldn't really get on with very well for 30 quid. Blade Runner, boring. Back to the Future box set, 15 quid. I'm looking out for the 4K for that. So there's a lot of old stuff, fairly reasonably priced actually. It's not too bad if you're looking for some catalogue stuff. Bohemian Rhapsody there, which I think is a great film. Here's an interesting one. This is called Skyfire. This is a really ridiculous disaster movie. I think it was Korean made. Stars Jason Isaacs. It's about this guy who builds a holiday resort on the edge of a live volcano. Special effects are fantastic. It's complete nonsense. 90 minutes of nonsense, but it's actually quite good fun. And I will post a link to a review of it on Starburst magazine, which I did a little while ago. Here's the other fairly big recent release, Wonder Woman 1984. And I wasn't fussed on this, so I won't be picking this up at this price. Look at the extras. The Mal, that's all you get on the DVD. But I will pick it up, but it's a few quid cheaper. I didn't really rate it much as a film. Very disappointing after the first one. This looks interesting. Soulmates, new horror thriller. I just read a review of that. It sounds quite good, a bit predictable. One of these cheapy £7 jobs that they always seem to get in Asda. This is interesting one I saw online this morning. Bram Stoker's Van Helsing looks like a cheap and cheerful vampire story, but set in the the correct time period, so it might be interesting. And this looks interesting too, Collision Course. This does Tia Carrere, that you might remember from the TV series Relicancy a few years ago. This is very similar to a film I watched recently called Horizon Line, about these people have to take control of a plane once its captain has a heart attack. This looks quite interesting too, Don't Speak. It's clearly a rip-off of Quiet Place, one of my favourite films of the last few years, and I can't wait for the sequel. But it's got an interesting looking monster on it, so I'll probably pick that one up at some point. And what's this one? This one is You're Not Alone. Again, there's so many of these cheapy horror films that never fail to disappoint when you actually pick them up. This is dreadful. Anti-Life, Don't Go There. Bruce Willis space film. It's a sort of an alien life type thing, but it's very, very dull. This is worth a look though. Pick up this one. It's a sort of home invasion film starring Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones and former Doctor Who Sylvester McCoy, who I had the pleasure of interviewing a few months ago. And again, I'll post a link to that on the Starburst magazine YouTube channel. Otherwise, it's all the usual reduced bits and pieces. Saint Maud there, which I think I reviewed in one of my early videos. Very striking and quite disturbing film. One of those endings that really stays with you. That's a 10 on DVD. Again, worth a little look. I would recommend picking up that one. So this is the rack that we have, really. Then we get into the cheapy stuff. Lots of TV box sets, lots of classic TV. I've noticed they're starting to appear on the shelves again, which is quite good. I think in lockdown people have been rediscovering a lot of old classic TV. Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, which I never really got into, unfortunately. Relic is supposed to be very good. That's one I do want to pick up at some point. It's a horror that came out last year, which looks quite unusual. I'm quite into horrors which sort of do something a little bit differently. Look at this one, Earthquake Los Angeles. One of these cheapies, £3. You can guarantee that the cover does not represent the contents of the film. They never look like that. So that's the Blu-rays in Asda today. Nothing much of interest. I mean, this Soul has been released today. I just had a quick look at the CD racks. It's very hard to get hold of CDs. I don't buy as many CDs as I used to. I tend to stream a fair bit now, and I don't listen to much modern music because it's not really my cup of tea. But Asda these days tend to have one or two albums by artists, new releases. Like we've got a new album, Dua Lipa, the teenage pop star, has got a sort of remix album out. Marty Pello has got a new album out, and I think there's also a new album out by Gabrielle, who had a lot of hits in the 90s. And there's a bit of Alice Cooper there if you're into your rock. So they do stock some artist albums, but really they're looking for the nostalgia market now. Hello, welcome back. So I'm back in the Stuffmobile. Done a quick bit of shopping in Asda. As you saw, physical media is out, but there's nothing hugely interesting. A lot of those sort of cheap, low-budget films, a couple of which look quite interesting, so I might try and pick them up at some point or see if they're available on any streaming service. But yeah, it's a shame to see how physical media's presence in the shops isn't what it was. Places like Asda, even a year or so ago, 2 years ago, well before the pandemic, had racks and racks and aisles of physical stuff. But I suppose they have to meet consumer demand, and if people aren't really buying it, then there's no point in them stocking it. But it's a shame. It's a shame. Anyway, I'm now going to take a little tootle off to my local walking place. I've got myself a coffee, which I'm going to drink on the way, and then we'll have a quick chat. I will have a quick chat, tell you what I've been doing lately, what I've been watching, and hopes and fears for the future. See you in a bit.
A few minutes later.
Welcome back. Well, I've reached my destination. I'm just going to go for a little walk, just for half an hour or so. Not a particularly strenuous walk, because I haven't done a lot lately. I'm in a place called Park Cwm Darren. There's an alarm going off somewhere. I'm in a place called Park Cwm Darren. I've always lived in Cardiff all my life, Cardiff born and bred, as they say, but moved out a few years ago to get away from the hustle and bustle, and have moved to a little village which is between Pontypridd and Merthyr Tydfil, and has ever a place had a more Welsh name than Merthyr Tydfil. Yeah, I'm in a little village in between those two. About 40 minutes from Cardiff, so I'm not completely cut off from the city, and I do go pop back in to see people and do things now and again, so I'm not isolated. It took me a while to get used to the country life, but it's what I was after as I got older and didn't want the the constant traffic and that buzz that you get in the city, which gets a bit tiresome as you get older. So yeah, I still do go to the gym when I can, but I haven't been able to go for a while. So I've been trying to get a few walks in locally. And the good thing about living in the Welsh Valleys is that there are plenty of walks, loads of countryside places. Just little, I'm always discovering new little tracks and things to walk along. Um, and this is one which I'm very fond of. I only really discovered it last year. I knew it was here, but hadn't bothered looking for it. But it was only during lockdown when I couldn't get to the gym and things. I thought I'll have a look and see what's around, and I found this really nice place called Park Come Down. It's reclaimed mining land. Obviously, there's a lot of reclaimed mining land in South Wales. It was the big industry for generations, really, until it sort of all wrapped up in the 70s and 80s. But this particular area was the home of the Ogilvy pit, the Ogilvy mine. Now, if you're a Doctor Who fan, your alarm bells, your Doctor Who senses may be tingling a bit, because that was the location of the 1973 John Pertwee Doctor Who story, The Green Death. It was all filmed in this area. I mean, it looks completely unrecognisable now. The mine shaft is all gone. Everything's been terraformed, I think you'd say, if it was another planet. But it's all been landscaped, and there's a beautiful lake and lovely walks and things. So it doesn't look anything like it did in Doctor Who, apart from one little area where there's a waterfall and some cliffs. If you've seen the documentary on the Doctor Who season 10 box set about the Green Death, where Katie Manning, who played Jo Grant, goes back to the location and meets some of the local people, because there's a little village just up the road a mile away called Derry, which is where some of the filming was done. And I think that the cast and where they were filming were visited by lots of the people from Derry. So they go back and they go to the local pub and meet some of the people who went to the filming. But there's one particular sequence that was involved John Pertwee hanging off a cliff in part 1, I think it was, when he's supposed to be travelling to Meterbili Street. That was filmed, excuse me, a little waterfall, which is half a mile away down there. I've been there a couple of times. If I can find the footage I've previously taken, I might slot it in at some point, because I'm not going to go that far today. So yeah, this is where I am today, just getting my little constitutional in, and I'll be heading off shortly for just a half-hour walk. I want to get back into my health and fitness campaign. This last lockdown since January has been a struggle. The first 2 were sort of a novelty, because everybody was in the same boat and everybody was sort of fighting and working together to try and get through it. But this third one that we had since Christmas, not that it was unexpected, I think we sort of knew there was more coming, but it just seems to have it's gone on a long time. And of course, it's been the winter and it's been bleak and miserable, and I have adopted a more sedentary lifestyle. I'm a fairly sedentary person anyway. I'm not, you can see I'm not an athlete, although I do like exercise, and in my younger days I used to run quite a bit, and I want to try and keep supple. I want to keep mobile as I get older, and I've noticed since I've doing these videos that I'm quite jowly these days. I'm quite breathy. So I want to try and rectify that a little bit. And I've been going on and off diets and things, but losing the will to do it, and losing the commitment to do it, and the drive. And in the past, I've always been a big lad, but in the past when I've gone on diets, I've managed to lose a bit of weight. But as you get older, it gets harder. And at the moment, I'm sort of in the mindset of, who cares? What's the point? But it is silly to carry too much weight. It is silly to be unhealthy. And so I'm trying to get back onto the routine, and hopefully I'll be able to nip back to the gym, because I've got a personal trainer who's brilliant when I listen to him. So I want to get back into it to sort of, not to help shake me out of this sort of torpor that I'm in, if you like, this inertia. So I'm going to try and get a few more walks, and I haven't bothered the last 2 days. I just couldn't be bothered. Plus, I'm not a person who enjoys walking in the rain and wandering around in bad weather, so I tend to sort of get out there when the weather's good. Today the weather's not particularly good. It's quite overcast. We were promised decent weather today, but it's a bit ropey. So I'm just going to get a half-hour walk, and I'll show you. I'll take some footage of the area around the park and the lake, and I'll be walking sort of around there and back again, so it's not exactly a route march. So that's my plan for today. When I come back, I will do just a quick catch-up about some TV recommendations. I should probably do this at the beginning of the video rather than the end, because I don't know how many people are going to get to the end of this. So I'm going to go off on my walk, show you some of the sights of Park Cwm Darren. If you're remotely enjoying this, or find it endearing, or remotely interesting with any of the stuff I've done, check out my previous videos. I do lots of reviews, a couple of unboxings, all the stuff that kids do on YouTube these days. And I'm just on YouTube to do something creative. It's an outlet, and it's quite fun, and it'll be quite fun to connect with people. So if you're enjoying this and interested in what I might have to say about anything, smash that subscribe button and the like button, Leave a comment, get in touch, let me know what you've been doing during the lockdown, how you've been keeping fit and how you've been managing mentally, because I think, I accept there's mental health issues that have sort of knocked me sideways a little bit here and there, and I think it's affected a lot of people, which is why I think fresh air and things are important, especially now as we're sort of hopefully slowly easing out of things. But anyway, that's enough of that for now. I'm going to go for my walkie walk. I'll show you where I am, and then I'll wrap up with a bit of TV chat at the end. So I'll see you in a minute. So yeah, here we are in the middle of the park. You can see the lake. This was all specially sort of landscaped when the mines were flattened out and demolished. It's hard to imagine what it would have been like 50 years ago when the mines were sort of winding down. Yeah, but it's just nice and restful. You can see I've just stopped for a quick walk, so you can hopefully hear the country ambience. There's a few people out today. As I said, some of the socialising lockdown restrictions have been relaxed, so there's a few people out having a takeaway picnic and a few people walking around, but generally it's pretty quiet actually. So I will be walking, you'll see up along there, along that path there, around the lake, and then back round again. So it'll be half an hour's walk really, which I think is enough for my first day back in a couple of weeks. But yeah, it's just a nice, just nice and quiet, which is yeah, sometimes what you need. Right, I'm back in the Stuffmobile. Oh, ain't nature wonderful? Yeah, quick half-hour walk. I think it's about 2 miles. Surprisingly, shamefully breathless, but yeah, nice to get out and get a bit of fresh air. And hopefully, the video clips will have given you an idea of what's around in South Wales if you in the area and want to walk. It's very nice. Right, before I head off home, just a quick bit of TV talk. A few TV recommendations of stuff I've been watching on the box over the last week or so. Things to recommend. There's a new series on Netflix called The Irregulars, which you may have seen if you're a Netflix fan. You may even have watched it by now. I know people binge these things. I'm 3 episodes in. This is I had to take my glasses off, they're getting steamed up. This is a very modern, young adult take on the Sherlock Holmes universe, if I can use that word. In Sherlock Holmes's original fiction, there were characters who appeared in a few stories called the Baker Street Irregulars. They were a bunch of sort of Victorian street urchins that Sherlock would often employ for a few pennies to do a little bit of dirty work for him, a little bit of investigation that he didn't really want to soil his hands with. I seem to recall that one of them was called Wiggins. I don't know why that name sticks in my mind particularly. This new series puts a typically Netflix young adult spin on the idea. Purists might balk at the idea, but I think it works quite well. I think Sherlock Holmes, the whole canon of Sherlock Holmes, is ripe for reinvention and reconsideration, always bearing in mind that proper traditional Sherlock Holmes is the best. You know, you can't go wrong with those original, even the Basil Rathbone films from the 30s and 40s, which are a bit cheesy now, and the Jeremy Brett series from the 80s and 90s. That's the best representations that we've had of classic Sherlock Holmes. And of course there have been others over the years: Douglas Wilmer, Peter Cushing on TV. Pick your Sherlocks, there's loads of them out there. Possibly avoid Stephen Moffat's modern take on Sherlock, which started so well but ended up into a complete train wreck. But that's a whole other issue. This is sort of set in Victorian times, and the kids have been aged up a little bit, so they're all modern teens, is the only way you can put it. They're led by Bea, who's very concerned about her sister, who is clearly got some sort of problems or mental health, or so she has difficulties in finding a place in the world, if you like. And they come into contact with John Watson, who is slightly more sinister than the Watsons we're used to seeing on TV. And they become enlisted in a similar sort of traditional way to do some work for Watson on behalf of Sherlock, who Sherlock's not in the first few episodes. I don't think he appears in episode 5. He's very much sidelined. He's a mysterious presence, and I think it turns out that Sherlock's lost his detective abilities, and it sort of racked him with guilt and self-loathing. And Watson, I think, is sort of he's not the normal Dr. Watson, should we put it like that. He's a bit more sinister. Anyway, he enlists these kids to investigate mysteries, but these are slightly more supernatural mysteries than traditional sort of Victorian detective fiction. The first episode involves a man who's got the power to control birds and turn them into killers. Second one is about a woman who can grow copies of people, and they do actually call them clones at one point, which made me roll my eyes a bit. They can create copies of people from their teeth. And the third one's a sort of gothic haunted sort of murder mystery in a gothic house sort of thing, which is quite interesting. If things like if you can't cope with the anachronisms of modern dialogue and modern music being used in the background, it'll make your teeth rattle, make your teeth itch. I'm a bit more forgiving because it looks really good. It's very stylish. I think it's well written. I think the acting is good. But you go into it not expecting traditional Sherlock, and it might annoy you. The modern, there's a lot of very modern dialogue. People talk in a modern manner because it's aimed at a young audience. Netflix, as we know, are obsessed with getting that young adult audience, and most of their shows are full of teenagers with powers or teenagers coming of age. That's the demographic that they're aiming at, which is fair enough. And I suppose it's quite clever the way that the creators of the show have reshaped Sherlock's mythology to make it, in an attempt to make it appeal to young adults, because young adults aren't going to watch your traditional top hat and tails handsome cab Sherlock Holmes. So I think it's quite watchable. I don't think it's going to be a TV classic, but it's worth a look. Much more worth a look, however, is a new animated series that's just arrived on Amazon Prime. 3 episodes of 8 have dropped, as they say these days at the moment. And this is based on a comic strip. It's called Invincible. It's based on a comic strip created by Robert Kirkman, who created The Walking Dead, which is finally staggering to the end of the road in its next season. This appears to be a traditional sort of superhero story, a play on the Superman idea. It stars J.K. Simmons, the brilliant J.K. Simmons, as Omni-Man, who's this sort of middle-aged sort of superhero. He's clearly based on Superman. He's come from another planet. He's got extraordinary abilities, but he's settled on Earth and he's married and he's got a teenage kid. And they're basically, him and his wife, played by Sandra Oh, basically waiting for their son, who's played by Stephen Yeun. I think it's pronounced Yeun, who again we'll know from The Walking Dead. They're waiting for his powers to manifest themselves. And luckily this show doesn't keep us waiting long, because in the first episode he does, and it's quite fun watching his father training him and helping him learn how to use his powers. But then towards the end of the first episode it does take a much darker turn and becomes a much more sinister series. And sorry, I just had to close the window. There was a baby screaming outside, as you probably heard. Yeah, it takes a much darker turn towards the end of the episode. So this isn't for kids. It's animated and it looks like a typical Saturday morning cartoon in some ways. It's very stylish animation, very slick and sophisticated. But this ain't for kids, because at the end of the episode it turns out that Omni-Man isn't quite who we think he appears to be. It's a world where there are lots of superhero teams. There's a team called the Guardians of the Globe, and they're very much the Justice League. You've got a Batman type, you've got a Flash type. They're all based on the characters that we know from Justice League, but they're obviously got different names. I think there's Darkwing, Red Rush is the Flash. But something happens at the end of the episode which makes you go, okay, wasn't expecting that. And then the 3 episodes sort of show Invincible, as he calls himself, the son calls himself, becoming a superhero and teaming up with a group of teen superheroes who call themselves, I think they're Team Teen or Teen Team. And underlying all this, of course, is the story about Omni-Man and the truth about him. 3 episodes in, it's very good. It's great. It marries sort of what looks like traditional superhero comic strip antics in a cartoon form with some much darker material. There's a bit of swearing, there's a bit of mild sexual extreme. So don't let your kids watch this, because it's not for them. And final recommendation is a series I hope you're watching, because it's so good. It's on the Sky One in the UK. It's a Sci-Fi Channel original. It's on, if you've got Now TV, you can watch it there, or if you've got access to Sky One. It's called Resident Alien. It stars Alan Tudyk, who's been in so many things, but I think science fiction fans will remember him from his role as Wash in Firefly many years ago. He plays an alien who's come to Earth to do terrible things. He's killed and assumed the physical form of a local doctor in a sort of backwater town in Colorado. And the 10 episodes, there's been 9 so far. I've got episode 9 to watch tonight. And it's about him fitting in with the community and learning about humanity, but all the time he wants to get back to his crashed spaceship, which just crashed into the ice, because he's got a sinister motive for being on Earth. It's brilliant. It's very clever. It's extremely funny. Alan Tudyk's got incredible comic presence and comic timing, and his reactions to things, and it's that fish out of water type thing, and he plays it so well. But it's a great series. It's been sort of slated in some places, but you need to give it a watch, because it's a great show. And we're so used to these big, lavish, expensive tentpole shows that the streaming services and the pay-per-view channels come up with in America, like HBO and so on. But this is just a little under-the-radar show that's on Sci-Fi, which to me is more entertaining than most of those bigger budgeted and bigger lauded shows. It's called Resident Alien. Not Resident Evil, which I often call it. Well worth catching up with, and it's been renewed for a second series. So, despite what some people might say, it's being watched and it's popular. So, I checked that one out. So, those are the things I've been watching in the last week or so. So, I'll sign off now because I'm going to head home. I will put some links down to various things that you might be interested in seeing. As I mentioned, I write for Starburst magazine. This podcast, this YouTube channel, isn't allied to Starburst in any way, but I will put some links to things I've done on there, because you might be interested in seeing the interview I did with Sylvester McCoy a couple of months ago about the owners. I'll put links to a couple of films I reviewed, and a link to the podcast that I do with my chum Scott, which we do fortnightly, which is called TV Zone Plus, which is based on the column I write for Starburst, looking at TV and films and games and geeky stuff. It's just a bit of a laugh for a couple of hours, and I'll put a link to that if you're interested in listening to something like that. So there we are. I'll leave it there, because this has probably been quite a long vid. Like I said, smash that subscribe button and like and leave a comment, and let me know what you've been watching, if you've picked up any physical media today, anything you think is worth a look, or anything you've read, anything at all. Say hello. It'll be nice to keep in touch, and I'll see you guys soon. I'm off home. Bye.